November 4th, 2025, 5:42 p.m., Caribbean skies. An American cargo jet, tail number N982AX, disappears from radar without warning. 30 seconds later, the ocean below erupts into a column of fire and debris. For 7 agonizing minutes, the Federal Aviation Administration's regional control tower in Puerto Rico struggles to reestablish contact. Nothing. Only static. Then a seismic pulse appears on naval sensors, registered 312 miles northeast of Caracas. At first, analysts believe it's a weather anomaly, but when infrared scans reveal a mid-air detonation at 14,000 feet, the truth becomes undeniable. The aircraft hadn't malfunctioned, it had been targeted. Minutes earlier, that plane, an Atlas Air Boeing 777 freighter, was on a classified logistics mission from San Juan to Cartagena, Colombia. Its cargo, encrypted satellite drives, biomedical prototypes, and defense electronics valued at over $81 million. Aboard were 19 people, 3 crew, 16 logistics and tech engineers. At 5:31 p.m., everything seemed normal. Fuel levels stable, route locked. The crew radioed their climb to flight level 150, but below them, deep inside Venezuela's Falcon State, an armed convoy was already in motion. It belonged to a narco-military syndicate known as Las Sombras de Orinoco, a cartel faction with former Venezuelan air defense officers among its ranks. For weeks, they had been listening. Hidden inside the freighter's ventilation shaft were micro-audio transmitters, recording every word of the crew's pre-flight checks. Their goal wasn't theft, it was interception. At precisely 5:37 p.m., the order came. Confirmed target lock, fire 2. 2 Russian-made 9K-38 Igla-S surface-to-air missiles tore upward from a jungle clearing near the coast. Traveling at Mach 1.3, they covered a mile every 3 seconds. The cockpit warning alarms blared too late. Missile tone, brake left, brake left, Captain Rowan Ellis shouted, banking hard. The first missile missed by 12 feet. The second struck near the starboard engine. A fireball consumed the right wing. Hydraulic pressure collapsed in under 3 seconds. Cabin decompression shredded the rear fuselage. Eyewitnesses on the Venezuelan coast later described it as a sun exploding. At 5:39 p.m., the Atlas 777 broke apart midair. Debris rained down across 10 square miles of mangrove swamp and ocean inlet. 18 of the 19 people on board were killed instantly. The lone survivor, a flight systems engineer named Lena Morales, was found clinging to a floating crate 16 hours later, barely alive. Within minutes, the U.S. Navy's Curacao Forward Operations Center intercepted the emergency signal. The analysis was clear, hostile strike confirmed, and in Washington, the Pentagon prepared to respond. But how far would America go when one of its own had been blown out of the sky? 5:52 p.m., Washington, D.C. Inside the Pentagon Situation Room, every wall screen was red. The words U.S. civilian aircraft lost flashed beside the coordinates of the crash. For 5 long seconds, no one spoke. Then Admiral Jonathan Kemp, commander of U.S. Southern Command, gave the only order that mattered. Activate Iron Shield. Full authorization within 40 seconds, that command leapt through 5 classified channels. In Curacao, 2 CH-47F Chinook helicopters spun up, their rotors throwing dust across the airfield. Each bird carried 24 Navy SEALs, 1.3 tons of gear, and precision munitions for a close-quarter strike. At sea, the guided missile destroyer USS Raven DG-110 opened its Mk-41 vertical launch bays. 4 Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles were armed, each weighing 1,600 pounds and capable of flying 620 miles at Mach 0.9. They would reach Venezuela's coast in under 8 minutes. Primary target, a fortified complex outside La Guaira, suspected command center for Las Sombras de Orinoco. Intelligence linked that site to the Igla-S launch that brought down the Atlas 777. Inside the Situation Room, Defense Secretary Ray Thompson spoke to President Elena Strass via secure line. Madam President, we have thermal confirmation of missile fire from the La Guaira corridor. Her reply was calm but cut through the static. Then we respond. Immediately at 6:01 p.m., the Raven launched. 4 Tomahawks rose into the evening sky, white tails cutting through the Caribbean haze. Below deck, sailors cheered softly, then fell silent. Every one of them knew they were witnessing the first U.S. counterstrike against a state-linked cartel since the 1980s. Meanwhile, aboard the Chinooks, the SEAL teams checked their weapons. Commander Blake Harris briefed his men over the headset. Primary objectives: neutralize command center, recover U.S. cargo modules, secure intel on Igla supply routes, 0 civilian casualties, extraction at T+20. As the helicopters crossed into Venezuelan airspace, their transponders switched to encrypted ghost mode. Altitude 400 feet, speed 120 knots, hugging the coastline to avoid radar. From below, the sea looked black and glassy. Above, the sky burned orange from the Tomahawk's flames racing ahead. By 6:09 p.m., the first missile hit. A flash brighter than lightning erupted over the La Guaira highlands. Fuel tanks at the cartel compound vaporized, sending a fireball 100 feet into the air. 7 seconds later, the second Tomahawk slammed into a radio tower, collapsing the cartel's communication grid. On satellite feeds, commanders watched the map bleed from green to amber to red. Every dot of enemy activity was disappearing. Then, with smoke still rising, Admiral Kemp gave his next order. Deploy the teams. We're ending this tonight. At 6:22 p.m., the Chinooks arrived low over the burning ridge. Below, the cartel compound was chaos, fuel fires, crates of munitions igniting, fighters running through the smoke. Spotlights cut across the flames as the SEALs fast-roped into the yard. Machine gun bursts lit the night like camera flashes. The first engagement lasted less than a minute. 12 enemy combatants down. No U.S. losses. But the fight was only beginning, because beneath the compound lay a tunnel complex the missiles had missed, and inside it was the proof America was about to find. 6:25 p.m., Venezuela's northern coast. The night sky glowed orange, and the ground still trembled from the Tomahawk strikes. Inside the burning ruins of the cartel base, the Navy SEALs split into 2 assault groups. Alpha Team on the east flank, Bravo on the northern ridge. The smell of diesel, gunpowder, and scorched concrete filled the air. The enemy mercenaries trained by ex-air defense officers were regrouping fast. "Contact, north wall," a SEAL shouted as tracers ripped past his shoulder. The reply was immediate. A Mark 48 light machine gun roared from the perimeter, sending a storm of tungsten rounds through the night. 3 cartel fighters dropped instantly. Another tried to man a DSHK heavy gun near the gate. One rocket from an M141 bunker buster silenced it in a flash of fire. Overhead, Raven's combat radar tracked the firefight, relaying thermal images to the Pentagon in real time. Commanders watched from 2,000 miles away as the jungle erupted in bursts of white heat. Within minutes, 12 enemy fighters were neutralized, but resistance was far from over. At 6:31 p.m., seismic sensors detected movement underground. Commander Blake Harris ordered Bravo Team to breach the main warehouse. Its floor concealed an entrance to the lower levels. When the steel hatch was pried open, what they found changed everything. Rows of missile tubes, all stamped with Russian serial codes, lay stacked beside barrels of aviation fuel, and sealed containers marked property of the Venezuelan Ministry of Defense. Photos, snapped by helmet cams, streamed directly to Washington. The proof was now undeniable. The Igla-S launchers had come from official stockpiles, not the black market. This was a state-enabled act of terrorism. The discovery enraged the command team. Admiral Kemp's voice cut through the comms. Priority change, secure the evidence, and evacuate. No mercy on remaining hostiles. At 6:34 p.m., the SEALs planted thermite charges across the lower bunker. Within 90 seconds, the compound shook violently. A wave of molten fire rolled through the tunnels, collapsing the floor beneath the remaining cartel fighters. Above ground, Alpha Team retrieved the stolen cargo, 6 reinforced crates containing encrypted satellite drives, and 2 missing biomedical units from the downed Atlas 777. Mission logs confirmed these were loaded onto the doomed flight less than 24 hours earlier. As extraction began, anti-air fire erupted from the nearby hillside. Tracer rounds streaked toward the Chinooks waiting on the perimeter. One door gunner unleashed suppressive fire from an M240, cutting down the ambushers before they could reload. The helicopters lifted off under heavy smoke, blades slicing the air with a deafening rhythm. By 6:42 p.m., the battle was over. 21 cartel operatives killed, 17 captured, 0 American casualties. From the deck of the USS Raven, sailors watched flames rise above La Guaira, visible from 20 miles offshore. The operation had lasted just under an hour, but its implications would echo across continents. In the smoldering darkness of Venezuela's coast, the United States had done what no one thought it would. It had retaliated in real time, and by sunrise, the world would see the cost of that decision. November 5th, 2025, 7 a.m., Washington, D.C. The sun rose over a city already at war with its own thoughts. Inside the Pentagon, officers and analysts gathered for the first full report on Operation Iron Shield. 42 enemy fighters eliminated, 17 captured, 11 crates of stolen U.S. technology recovered. Not a single American casualty, yet the numbers told only part of it. America had proven a point the world had nearly forgotten. Within 22 minutes of a civilian jet's destruction, the United States had identified the launch site, deployed naval assets, and erased a fortified complex from the map. Every satellite in orbit had seen it. Every capital understood it. From space, Venezuela's coast still burned. The crater stretched nearly 300 yards across, glowing at 2,000 degrees, a cauterized scar on the Caribbean. By 8 a.m., President Elena Strass spoke from the Oval Office. "This was not an accident," she said, her tone steady. "It was an attack on our people and our sovereignty." We have answered, and we remain ready behind her. Footage of the strike replayed across world news. Tomahawks climbing through the haze, SEALs descending into fire, the smoldering ruins of La Guaira. Within hours, Washington froze 3 Venezuelan defense accounts, sanctioned 5 officials, and placed 2 coastal bases under continuous drone watch. The State Department labeled Las Sombras de Orinoco a transnational terrorist organization, its leaders now fugitives on their own soil. At Dover Air Force Base, 7 flag-draped caskets arrived in silence. Families stood together as a Marine band played softly against the wind. For the nation, it was mourning. For the Pentagon, it was deterrence measured in sacrifice. By noon, a single truth settled over the capital. The U.S. had lost an aircraft but regained its deterrence. Analysts called it the fastest coordinated counterstrike since 1988. 22 minutes from explosion to retaliation. No hesitation, no debate. Meanwhile, fishermen off the Venezuelan coast found the shattered remains of Russian-made Igla-S launchers. Their serial numbers traced directly to a state stockpile, confirming that the attack had never been random. It was planned, funded, and shielded by power. As dawn returned to the Caribbean, one image endured: the final contrail of Flight N982AX, a streak of flame across the clouds. It became a symbol of loss, precision, and resolve. Because in the language of modern warfare, America doesn't threaten. It calculates, it responds, and it ensures the next strike never comes. So if you value this kind of analysis and want more untold stories behind today's global flashpoints, like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep uncovering the truth behind the headlines, where strategy, sacrifice, and survival meet.